Good evening. It's Monday, October 4th. Welcome to the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. Tonight we have 3 items on the agenda, but first let's take a roll call in attendance.
Roll call of the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. Councilor Keefe?
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky is absent. Councilor Powers is absent. Councilor Sereno? Absent. And Chairman Morabito?
Here.
There's no quorum.
I believe Councilor
Yes,
Visconti is on the motion, on the subcommittee.
Excuse me.
I'm here.
Councilor Visconti is here, so there is a quorum present.
Excellent. And I'd like to recognize Councilor McKenna and Councilor Janino for being in attendance as well. So we're going to move on to agenda number 1.
Council Order 21-306, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo, that the mayor request the city solicitor to draft an ordinance and fee schedule for the following: that any autonomous-driven vehicle operated by a Revere resident and housed in Revere must pay excise tax to the city of Revere and a use fee of $5 and a $1 per mile charge while operating in Revere. Said vehicle will follow all state, federal laws and be assigned to the City of Revere Hackney Division for oversight.
Councilor Rotundo.
And I'm very lucky to have the privilege of Frank Stringy in the room. And I can remember just about, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago, I was told by many people that there would never be life sciences coming to Revere. There'd never be biotech at Suffolk Downs. There'd never be, for that matter, rowing or sailboats down at the marina down by Fredericks Park. I still want to tell you I'm looking for that pier down on Revere Beach, Frank. I know that's a dream too, but I think when we take a look at what Amazon and other companies are doing and some of the research that I've done, that this is a potential that could happen quicker than we think. I'm not sure if it's going to happen in the next 5 years, but what I can tell you, the research shows that you have major industry players, tractor-trailer companies, that are actually looking to do autonomous driving in Europe, as well as in the United States, as well as in Canada. So my thought is to put something in place, or at least go through the process of drafting something and having something. And if they're going to take people's jobs away from them in the future, I want to be able to have something in place that we can utilize in order to benefit from it. As we all know, Amazon is putting a fulfillment center, I believe, in North Revere over at the Ocho Case Cinema, and it currently has one at the old Necco site. I can foresee a day in which they are using autonomous vehicles, they are using AI in concert with the latest of technology to drive a vehicle to a particular place and have products dropped off. So I can't see how we should wait for something and play catch up. I think perhaps we could put something in place. Maybe we'd be the first one in the country, maybe not. But I think it's worthwhile. And I can remember one thing. I remember started out in nursing well over 25 years ago. And they went from cutting people's chests from here to here to do open heart surgery to doing it this big now, using a robot called the Da Vinci. So, as I stated, I believe that in time, how much time, I don't know, but I would rather be ahead of the curve than be behind the curve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Are there any other subcommittee members that would like to speak? Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I do like getting ahead, and I do feel autonomous vehicles are much closer than we really realize. However, I don't feel that the fee is I think the fee is overwhelming, and I think that it would be too much to make any worthy sense of operating in the city. If anything, it might prohibit it. Ubers and ride shares alike, I think we get 10 cents a mile, and I'd actually like to get a little bit more than 10 cents a mile, but I think that's federal and state legislation. But I think $5 and $1 per mile might be just a bit too much. I'm not sure how anyone can adequately operate at that cost. So that would be my concern. Otherwise, getting some sort of revenue from it I think would be nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other subcommittee members? Any council members? Counselor Rotundo.
I have no problem with modifying the price. I have no problem actually modifying the denomination and so forth. I will tell you that, and refer people to a U.S. News report, Money's top 7 autonomous vehicle stocks to buy. And it's a very interesting article because it tells you the time frame in which this could happen, and obviously the evolution of inflation between now and between that point of reference is obviously going to change. So I have no problem with that adding language that saying that the fee shall change from time to time. You know, this can all be dictated within the language, and I would be more than happy to work with Paul Capizzi with it, and we can change the money factor to whatever they feel is necessary. And if we need to get special legislation, I think we should do that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. If none of the subcommittees objects to what I'm going to propose, so right now, our streets aren't open to autonomous vehicles. I think, obviously they're coming, the confidence level isn't there yet, but I think we should send this to the city solicitor for a recommendation on the legality of it, and then if it's legal, he can go forward and draft the ordinance. Any subcommittee members object, or council members?
No,
Councilor Rotundo.
Sure thing. I have no problem with it going to Paul Capizzi. I would tell you that Ford and partner Argo Al plans to launch their self-driving commercial vehicles 2022, and that's Ford. So again, I referenced the February 10th, 2021 article from Newsweek and U.S. News, Money. It's very specific. It dictates that. Again, the legislator at the state level would dictate whether we can charge this fee or not. And as Tom Ambrosino once said to me before, that until something is challenged, it's legal.
Thank you, Counselor. Any more members? So we're going to send that to the solicitor for recommendation. Next item on the agenda.
Council Order 21-308, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo, that the City Council amend the rules of order to permit the submission of a maximum of 10 motions per meeting when the City Council meets twice in any given month. Further, that at the discretion of the President, that a councilor be permitted to speak on 4 motions.
Councilor Rotundo.
For example, when we're during summer session would be a perfect example of that. Sometimes you may need to put in motions and so forth, and then they pile up. And with that said, as they pile up, they will take time to get processed through. And so if we, have a period off, that would be a problem. So meeting twice in a month, if you have 5 motions a week, then obviously you have more motions than you need, and are allowed to put on as the current rules provide. However, the stipulation here is it's all under the discretion of the council president, and that's where I would put it. And the permission to speak on 4 motions versus 3 is only the difference of 1. So whatever my colleagues want to do, that's fine. This is just my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Are there any subcommittee members who would like to speak? Councilor Keefe.
Thank you. First off, Councilor Rotundo, I respect where you're trying to go here, and I can appreciate it. But I also was listening to Councilor Guanasso the other night, and he had mentioned if everyone decided to do that, it could be a very unproductive night. It could just be a lot of paperwork that really isn't getting the information out to the residents that's most important. It could really take over the more important motions of that evening. I'm more of a fan of quality versus quantity, and that's not saying that some of these motions are very important. I would rather stay with, as mentioned, ask the discretion of the president, because there have been times, and even when we meet 3 times in a month, that members of the council have asked to submit additional motions and have other members speak on them. And I'd rather have that be the abnormal versus the normal. So I wouldn't be in favor of this change, and I was curious if it would be a charter change or if it would just be a council rules of order change. More on the sense that, think about the end of the year when we have
Rules of order
the
change.
rules of order, okay. So at the end of the year, we do have, as we all know, the unfinished business, and that can really tally up. And as a council, we should look at that as unproductive business. Maybe it didn't belong in the council chambers in the first place, maybe it belonged as a 311 ticket, or maybe it belonged as just a call to a department head, or maybe a call to the mayor. And that's where we have to use our resources outside of the chamber. But I always appreciate Councilor Rotundo. You're very active, and I know you work late sometimes, and I see your motions come in 2, 3 in the morning, because I'm up late too. We're probably the few that are up that late seeing these emails, and Madam Clerk Melnick gets them. But I think that we should stick to the current rules of order. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not a member of the committee, but I also have a very strong feeling regarding this issue. For several years, it's been working the way we have it. There hasn't been one individual who's come forward to say, I don't think I have enough time to get my motions in. I just think that, you know, and on George's behalf, George does submit a lot. But, you know, the rest of us and the rest of all those councils who sat here previously to us felt that it was a reasonable amount of motions. I think you're allowing for too much rhetoric and for they reduce down the motions to the factions where they belong elsewhere. They don't need to be motions. And we've got, now with 311 and all the media availability to us and the electronic devices available to us, we can meet with any department head at any given time. The only thing motions do, to give a little exposure to the public, to say, here I am, I'm working hard on your behalf. But there's so many efforts going on in this council chamber by members of the council, presently and in the past, who've worked so hard for their constituents without the need of additional motions. The actions speak for themselves. I think that the councilors who sit here and the ones who sat before us work very, very hard on behalf of their constituents. They don't need to tell them every week or every other week, here we are, Joe Smith, Joe Jones, Mary, I'm working hard on your behalf. They know, and they see the production, they see what you're doing, and they appreciate that. I simply don't want to see the integrity of this council lowered and watered. I think we're doing, and if there's a need, certainly you can get other additional motions in. There's no question about it. There's always exceptions to the rules. They're house rules. But I just think to make it as a matter of, just me sit down at my computer at midnight and just and I'm drafting up all these motions. Not needed, not necessary. Go to sleep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. And I appreciate your feedback. Considering this is your last year, and you could just wave your hands in the air and say, I could care less. Let them.
Stephen, I can't do that.
Let them propose 5,000 motions.
That's
So
right.
I respect your feedback. Councilor Visconti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a new counselor or first-term counselor, I'm a believer that if it's not broken, why fix it? And I don't, I think the 5 motions and 3 that we can speak on is fine. In it's just my belief. I commend Counselor Rotundo with all the motions that he puts in. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of research, and I commend him on that. I believe it's, I think the 5 and 3 is sufficient per meeting, with 11 counselors here, and I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a very strong feeling on this, and I'll explain why. Sometimes you put a motion in, it goes down to the mayor's office. Another week goes by, he sends it to a department head. I find it more effective, and I've been doing it for years, or at least my time on this council, is going to the department head and getting it done. It's so much easier than saying to someone, we want to put a slow children sign here, or fix a pothole there. And I admit, they can go to 311, but I think even 311 is just as effective as putting a motion in. Sometimes it's more effective, I've found. So I couldn't go along with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rotundo.
Well, let's get a little history lesson here. This changed because you all didn't like the councilors at that time didn't like the fact that I was adding motions. But that was in response to a decision by another public official, which I won't say, in which we could not access. And to this day, the rules are very simple. No department head is to respond to a councilor's request. It's supposed to go directly through the mayor. I still have that email. Madam Clerk, do you have that email too? Probably, exactly. So I'm going to repeat that, contrary to what was just said, that no department head is to do anything for a city councilor until it goes through the mayor. And that's the process. So when you have someone at 273 Fenno Street that has been flooded now because of a spring that's been at that house, and I'm sure Frank knows that house exactly where I'm talking about, he's nodding his head, and they're looking for help, or the family that's on Suffolk Ave that was flooded due to a new construction on a plot of land that was not supposed to be built on near an old property many, many years ago. That was an issue. Now, I don't see how 10 motions is going to clog when you're only speaking on 4 versus where today we're only speaking on 3. So by technicality, the motions that we put together, if collectively everybody had 10 over a summer session, 110 would be presented, but each person would only be able to speak on 4, and instead of going from 33, we'd go to 44. Now, if the council can't take an extra hour out of its day to deal with the issues of the city, then so be it. But again, I want to remind the councilors that this rule was changed because of me many years ago. What was it, less than 4, Arthur? And more importantly, at that time, I still have that email which I'm looking at right now, that no counselor, or shall I say no department head, is to do anything for any counselor unless it goes through the mayor first. And I'm more than happy to present that email to each and every one of you.
So point of information, I believe when the mayor first got on, there was a communication, I believe that was about 8 years ago. One of his chief of staff sent it out, but that was clarified and rescinded and taken away. You don't have to go through, you can go through a department head and get clarification or if you need something done.
someone
But
send
we're
me
not going to
that
have further, so this is one of the, I think this is one of the concerns, time constraints. So we have a meeting at 5:45, and we still have another item on the agenda. So it's all about time constraints. We want to engage our residents, right? While at the same time, we want to encourage them to come to the meetings and watch the meetings, not deter them from coming to the meetings. So just some number crunching. 100, if each counselor presented 10 motions, that would be 120 motions. You could, if each counselor could speak on 4 motions, that would be 44 minutes for each maker of a motion to speak on one of their motions. In addition, if other counselors wanted 2 minutes to speak on that motion, that would be an additional 40 minutes. So right now, you're talking about 84 minutes just in motions, and that's not even including city business like presentations or anything of that matter. So I think we need to look at time constraint in that aspect. If it's the role of the subcommittee to take a vote, we can take a vote. Is that what you would like, Councilor Rotundo?
I leave it at the discretion of the chair, and obviously, my fellow colleagues, I have no problem with your decision, whatever it is, it is.
And with no disrespect to you, we respect all your hard work and all the work you do. Everyone knows you go out there and you try to work hard for the resident. So I don't think there's any question about that. I think it's a matter of trying to engage the residents of this city to attend meetings, and I don't think going 4 hours every other Monday is going to encourage viewers. So with that said, can we take a roll call?
Shall the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee offer a favorable recommendation to the full City Council on this motion? Councilor Keefe?
No.
No. Councilor Novoselsky is absent. Councilor Powers?
Positively no.
No. Councilor Visconti?
No.
No. And Chairman Morabito?
No.
No, this motion will not receive a favorable recommendation this evening in front of the full City Council. Last item on today's agenda is 21-331, communication from the mayor relative to a home rule petition for easement and fee transfers on Revere Beach Parkway from state agencies to the city of Revere for municipal purposes.
Thank you. We have Frank Stringy here from Planning, but before he comes up to give a little presentation, just want to speak on this quickly. So what this would do, this would authorize a transfer of easement from the Department of Conservation and Recreation and the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance to the City of Revere for municipal purposes. The transfer would allow for the activation of a public information kiosk at Wonderland Station, as well as the construction of essential public fire safety facilities on certain parcels of land in the city of Revere. No funds will be paid to the DCR in consideration for any of the for any interest or transferred or conveyed by this act, and no funds shall be paid by the city to the Commonwealth for any interest transferred or conveyed by this act. Mr. Stringy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm basically here to answer any questions. I know there was questions on plans that were cited in the legislation. These plans reflect parcels of DCR property that the city of Revere wishes to have transferred to the city of Revere. In lieu of that transfer, the city has identified 13 acres of land within Rumney Marsh that the city holds. It was held by the city as a donation to the city of Revere for conservation purposes by the Festa family. So we still have 13 acres within Rumney Marsh that we would transfer to DCR in lieu of them transferring to us approximately 4,500 square feet for the Point of Pines Fire Station and 1.7 acres on Revere Beach Parkway for that fire station, the basketball court, and a good portion of Green Creek behind it. And also for the easement on Revere Beach Boulevard. It's an electrical easement for the kiosk. Now, the kiosk would be located right at the base of the Marquee Bridge, coming across to the boulevard on that plaza. And it would be an electronic kiosk. Therefore, we need electric supply. I do have copies of plans of the land that the city would be obtaining from DCR
Madam Clerk.
on Revere Beach Parkway.
Frank, in the meantime, can you just, oh, you read my mind, if you can hold that up.
And this is the parcel, this triangular parcel here is about,
Can you hold it straight so the camera can get it?
that triangular parcel here is about 5,600 square feet, and it's for the Pointed Pines Fire Station. As shown on there is the old fire station. The new fire station is going to be double the size, and we need additional space for parking. So no portion of the station would be on that parcel of land. It would just be designated for parking for the fire station. The fire station will have a community room and trading room, so there will be a need for, there's approximately 12 parking spaces that would be there. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Stringy. Any questions from subcommittee members? Council Powers.
Frank, just a question, and that would also allow for residents down there to access the community room also without having to go out on
That's correct.
Way? And that would be, it's a public safety issue, really.
Right.
Thank you.
Council McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Frank, will any of the wetlands be inhibited by construction or taken away, wetlands?
Oh, no, quite the contrary. I mean, DCR holds about 90% of the whole holdings of Rumney Marsh, and Revere has, small portions of land that we've acquired over the years. It was donated to the city. So we would be giving those parcels over to DCR to complete their holdings of Rumney Marsh for protected wetlands and conservation land.
Thank you.
Any other subcommittees who would like to speak, or any city council members here in attendance? Seeing that there aren't any members that would like to speak, let's take a roll call.
Shall the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee offer a favorable recommendation on approving an act authorizing the Department of Conservation and Recreation and the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance to transfer an easement in certain property and the fee in certain properties to the City of Revere for all municipal purposes? Counselor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky is absent. Counselor Powers.
Yes,
Yes. Counselor Visconti.
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Morbido.
Yes.
Yes, the special act received a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. There's no further business. I just want to take a moment to wish our council president, Tony Zimbudo, well. He is not making he could not make the subcommittee meeting, as well as Ira Novoselsky. He had a family emergency that he had to attend to. So I wish them well. With that said, this meeting is adjourned.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Appointment Subcommittee meeting, October 4th, 2021. We have two items before us this evening. The first is 21-262, the appointment of Dr. Drew Bunker to the Board of Health. Is Dr. Bunker available? Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please. Hit that little button and that red light will go on.
How you doing? This is Drew Bunker.
Okay.
Nice to meet you guys.
Will you just give us a brief outline of what your just a quick background? Very, very brief, by the way. We're not looking for any elaborate stuff.
Okay. Yes, so I am a primary care doctor at the MGH Broadway Revere Clinic, actually down the street.
I'm an old MGHer myself.
Oh, yeah. So I've been there for the last year. I started September 1st, 2020.
Great.
And before that, I did residency at Cambridge Health Alliance, working at a Cambridge and Everett hospital, mainly. For the last year, I worked with the in homeless outreach in the city of Cambridge and Somerville, and then transitioned over to Revere, doing homeless outreach on the weekends. And that's kind of my passion, is the homeless population, substance use population. It's what I'm most interested in.
Terrific. Any questions from the membership of the subcommittee? Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. Then me and you share something in common, the same thing. Question, what's your position on harm reduction?
Good question. So harm reduction, I think, in this day and age is necessary.
And I need to interrupt you so that
Yeah.
people understand exactly, because obviously I'm a nurse, you're a doctor, we know what that
Yeah.
means intricately, in very simple words, what it exactly means.
Yeah, no, so harm reduction is particularly when it pertains to addiction, is assisting patients or finding therapies that may not push for abstinence completely, but push for safety. Things of harm reduction are medications like Suboxone. Other things are, access to,
Safe injection?
yeah, safe injection is part of it, and I don't want to get too far
I
into
don't
it.
want to,
Okay.
no.
Yeah.
That's enough. You don't have to
Yeah.
go into any further. Any other questions from any other member of the city council? Seeing none, you're a first-year employee at MGH, 41-year employee at MGH. You couldn't have been and picked a better institution.
Thank you.
Picks and employs quality people, meaning yourself and me.
Yeah.
So we look forward to, and we thank you for coming forward to provide your services to our community, and we're honored by you coming before us this evening. All in favor? All opposed? So on. Thank you very much. We're going to vote this out of the committee of the whole at 6 o'clock when we meet. We will vote favorably for your appointment. There's no need for you to stay in attendance. We will vote this out favorably, and you'll be hearing, I believe, from the mayor's office in a couple of days. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Yep.
Do a good job for our city.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Drew. The next is 21-294, appointment of Natalie Pardo to the Human Rights Commission. She sent a communication to the city clerk advising that she withdrew her name. She's got too many things going on, and so we will withdraw the application. And that, ladies and gentlemen, members of the council, concludes the appointment subcommittee for the meeting of October 4th, 2021. Thanks.